Hello and welcome to day 15 of the daily sketch challenge. And today we have a beverage instead of a food, and it's a beverage we love here in India, especially in Mumbai. It's called it's tea, but tea in Mumbai is known as cutting chai. It's served in this glass tumbler. It's really small when you actually sit down to drink it, and you can get it around almost any corner in this city. So it's something that anyone can really afford, and it's a mix of some tea. Um, I'm not sure how much tea is really involved in this, but there is a lot of sugar and a lot of milk, and it's frothy because um, it's physically transferred across two cups with a lot of style, making it a very frothy drink. So I'm hoping to capture this today using our watercolor pencils. Yeah, since most of today's color is brown and shades of black on brown, and that's it, I will pull out just those colors. So here's my paper, and here are our colors, our pencil colors. So this is where today's shade chart lies. Orange, yellow, and all the browns we have over here are going to be useful for painting chai. And finally, of course, the black. Nothing gets painted without black. So I don't need any of the other colors for now. I'm going to just keep them aside. If I need something, I will take it later. So here's our palette, so to speak. Besides this, of course, I do have a palette which I use every day, and I keep it aside. It's a messy palette now, but it's messy with a lot of pencil ink, that is the pigment that comes from the pencil. So I don't wash it off. I keep it because I can reuse a lot of stuff. For example, the black here, purple, these kind of colors. So you'll find me using this later. In the first half, we will definitely be using it directly, the pencils directly on the paper. So keeping this at the side, I will now get started with the sketch, a pencil, and a quick illustration if possible. So there's the chai. The chai comes in a lovely, delightful tumbler. I love this tumbler, to be very honest. I have one at home, which I don't use. I just keep it for the novelty of it. And then there is this hexagonal or octagonal pattern, which I'm going to try and achieve. Let's see. Yeah. If you can't see what I'm drawing, you aren't missing much. I will just I'll hold it up, but you will not see. I'm being very light with my pencil, drawing in these lines. Now there are these arches, so I'm just going to leave a small, indicator of an arch on this cup, and above that arch you will definitely find a slight line. Okay, so something in this picture is already off. I have lost maybe I've made my arch too high, so I'm going to just erase that. Oops. Just erase the arch, make a slight correction. If this is the base, the arch is here, right? Yeah, the arch is below. Thereafter we have the rim of the teacup curving nicely into an oval, right, with a little bit of an edge there, and inside this is all the froth. So I'm wondering how to approach this. The froth is not white, It is okay. Let's think about it. I'm going to just leave my illustration here for everyone to see. Can you see the illustration? Okay, so that's it. Now to go in with a color, I'm going to directly start with this light brown. It's the lightest brown I have if you don't count yellow ochre as a brown. So this is the next brown that I have, and I'm going to shade in almost all of this cup. But before I shade in, let me just indicate where the glass ends. So this is a thick glass, so you are going to see the end of the glass over here, right? And no tea will be seen below it. So I need to mark this out, otherwise it's going to look funny. Okay, a slight wall on this side of the glass. Over here it doesn't really matter, and thereafter this portion doesn't have that problem, so we can leave that. Let's start with the brown that goes underneath. I'm going to be a little careful about spaces where I find a little lightness. I probably won't color in that portion. Everywhere else I'll color in. So I see lightness here, here, and all of this becomes quite light. So coloring this in. This side is light in general because light is falling on this, whereas the other side is dark. So keep that in mind when you're shading in all your sections. So even when you're shading in with this pencil, you can go a little darker on this side and lighter on that side. I keep leaving a few white spaces here and there. Just watch for those. It's nice to have the gaps in advance. Okay, you will see how dark I'm making the pencil mark here. So I'm treating it quite like a pencil color itself. Now somewhere here, halfway, the color changes. This brown has to get light. So I'm going to just color in this portion and follow the top with a lighter shade. It's actually the same brown but a very light shade. So somewhere here, very light. Go gentle. I'm thinking I've probably made the top of this teacup a little short. So because this is pencil, I can make a slight change, modification, right? We can make this a little higher because this portion I see is quite high, right? Bring that in and curve it over. Don't forget the curves, those are important. So now I can bring my T up a little longer, I mean little higher. Longer, higher. Sorry, I laugh at myself often when the words just bumble up. And then I'm going to just give the rest of this portion a light brown color. I'm not going to worry about the bubbles yet and the froth on top. I'll tackle it with the fine. Yeah, this looks good. In addition to this, I could probably use my black to outline the bottom. There is a little bit of a black shade here, see this dark portion here, so I'm just adding that in. Then a few flicks of gray, black, and this may look funny, but when you add the detail, it really does add up a lot because the glass really has its own character, right? Okay, we'll add the rest later. That's it. So let's get started. Medium size brush, or maybe even large, no, medium size brush and water, and we'll wet everything. I've always talked about this, but when you wet any watercolor pencil marking, you must remember to wet it from light to dark. So if this portion is the lighter part, start with the lighter part. As you wet it, pigment gets picked up and settles in your brush as well, in addition to settling on the paper. So that is why you would want to try and get the light color on the paper before more pigment attaches itself to the brush and then comes down. Okay, so again I'm going from this side, which is the lighter end, this portion. Watch for the white spaces you have left. Try to leave them white. Okay, it would defeat the purpose of our coloring it with care, so just be watchful for that. Okay, I'm getting a little close to the black and I shouldn't do that yet. So now I'm going to the darker portion. I'm keep steering clear of that blacky still, because I don't want to pick it up and move along with it. See, coming to the darker part of the tea. So whatever we have already put in terms of intensity, the way we have colored it in, it has manifested in the rendering of this with water. Now I'm going to go in with a small brush, size 0, and tackle the black portion. See, the black has to blend with the brown, so just activate the black and then clean your brush and let the brown take over. Okay, so just let the brown kind of blend with the black, and don't worry too much about this, we can always get to this portion a little later. I'm just so black can be quite dark. I should have probably used gray. Even so, it doesn't matter, we've got some gray moving around. Okay, now for the details. When I add details, I usually take my palette and start activating the paints I need to make the details visible. So one thing I do is scrape, and to scrape this brown that I used for the tea, I will use a cutter, a paper cutter. I use this every day. Scrape it on here. We are only scraping the pigment. So there's the pigment, because we're going to treat this like watercolor. Let water dissolve all this pigment and then we paint it on just like watercolor. So that's the lighter brown. Then I have the darker brown, and I'm just going to mix it in here where brown was yesterday, just a little bit. We'll add more if we want, and we'll sharpen our pencils then. Now we can take one more brown. Let's take a darker brown, just in case you want to add some character to this. So where will we put it? We can put it at this corner. I need to clean this palette, I know, but I'm so hesitant to wipe off pigment that I have scraped and put, and it has dried from, so I don't feel like washing it because of that, but I guess we'll have to do it. Okay, so now we'll start with the lighter brown. Yeah, we'll start with the lighter brown. Drop in a dot of water everywhere into each of the wells where you've added pigment. start with this one. Now it looks watery, but if you wait long enough and let that pigment, let all the particles that you have scraped in dissolve, you will find that it is nice and dark once it has dissolved. So be a little patient at this point. Just allow the pigment to fully dissolve. Yes, and once that's done, you can start going in with some amount of detail. So here's the brown. Can you see how dark it is? This is the same brown we applied here, and we still see that it is quite dark. So I'm going in darker, making a few lines. Oh, wrong one. A few lines like this. I feel like I need to darken this over here so that that black doesn't look overpowering. Okay, putting in quick lines. I'm trying my best not to spend too much time doing these illustrations. I also find that I may have left too much of white space here, so I'm just fixing all those things. If you have white space, you can easily cover it up. It's not a problem. The pigment is getting quite dark. I'll lighten it a bit. Now over here it starts to lighten, so I'm going to just I will use the tip of my brush in water, just clean it up and just kind of go over this white area so that the white area gets a hint of the brown. It doesn't stay stark white, just gets a hint of brown, but it is light brown, so it has that lightness about it, right? So this is where you will start to see the lightness in the light and the the light that's hitting the cup. So you need to show that half of this is dark. So put in the color, right? And there is one other part of it which is light. And so this one has to get a little darker, just a wee bit darker. This looks more realistic. The rest of it is quite light. We just need to put in a few lines. So here there's a line, a little bit here. Next, we can target the froth. Now the froth is a little interesting. The froth is dark inside each of the bubbles, but it is light on the outside. So it's a very like an inverse color. So what we'll do is I'll experiment with one. I'll take that darkish color we have and make a bubble shape, what looks like a bubble. And then I'll darken one side of it and leave it there. Next, I'll make another bubble. So let's make another one here. Darken only the left, keep the right bubbling, and then make another one. And each time I'm only darkening the one side, that is the left side. Not the right color, so going back in there. You know what I've done? I've started taking paint from a section that has not been diluted. So let's dilute that a little bit. And let's dilute this as well, because we are going to start dipping into these. We would dilute it, but more than diluting, we are mixing it up so that uh, it's ready to use and doesn't have any pigment particles in it. Okay, let's swirl around and check out this one. You know, I've got something stuck on my brush and it's annoying me. So I'm gonna just fix that. Okay, now a few more bubbles, and let's make those bubbles in advance. Small ones, very tiny ones, and then some space, and then another set of bubbles. And I'm doing it light with the lighter color so that I can see the bubbles um, and put in the darker color later. They're like little mounds on top of each other. I hope I'm getting this right. So there's a big one, and then another bubble here. Some big bubbles, and the rest are all small. So here it's all frothy. I'm just touching it up with. I see a bubble here. And I'm just dabbing at certain places where I feel it's just froth, nothing else. There is no bubble that is very visible. So just making it uneven, that's it. Okay, now I should be able to darken it. Let's go in and darken this one. Let's say this one, because this is like one of the biggest bubbles I can see. So see, darken it. Darken this too. And make little bits. Small sections that are dark. And then I have some over here. So it's a little sporadic, and I'm trying to figure out how sporadic to make it. So I'm just looking for the darkest bubbles that I see, and we'll go over the rest of it with a lighter color. Okay, getting to the point where I need to lighten my color, so I'll go down to the earlier color and just put in sections where this color is a little flat. So for example, this portion here, it shows you that the tea is without bubbles over here. And then there is a little bit on this side here, it's also quite flat, and a little bit over here. Something I missed over here. Yeah. I think it's looking bubbly. If you feel it's not as true to the picture as it should be, you can add a little bit more darker sections to these bubbles, the end, the bubbles. Now, for this to look dark, we need to be able to put a little bit of black on the border, which is where the cup, the glass cup, is kind of showing the black of the background. So we need to just show that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch in on black. This is black, by the way, which I've collected from earlier um, earlier paintings, and I'm going to just put in this bit of black. See, it helps give some shape to the cup while also showing that there are frothy bits on top. So this portion here is so visible all the way down till here, right? So I'm just kind of covering that up and showing the bubbles this way. Now that makes that stand out, right? In the same way, I can move that blackish color onto the top now. Now we need to get it onto the top. So this color starts to take over from here onto the top of the right. Same thing over there, over here. Start from here, slight overlap, and then it's on top. And it's on top all the way till this point. Let's get that black moving. I sometimes need it light and I sometimes need it dark, so I need to move my black around on this palette to get those shades. Sometimes it's dark like this, and then at some point it gets light. So very gently I'm going to put a very thin color at certain places. Now here I can barely see the black, so I'm going to no touching it. When you can't see it, you can't see it. I will lighten my black a bit with water. See the dot of water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some shade. So here is some shade, and do it very gently. Try not to overdo it. So a little bit of shade here. The black needs to be light enough to kind of make the tea look like it is still brown, not black. See? Pull it out, add some water to it, soften it, and then let's put in another shade over here. I'm taking dark brown now and letting that color come in. Oops, too dark. So when it's too dark, lift it off. This could be fatter. That whole brown and black mix can be fatter over here. The base is quite dark and I haven't got that darkness in, so let's make it darker. Okay, now I need a break from all that, and I'm going to put a little bit of shade over here, maybe with a fatter brush, so that I can spread it better. A little bit of the black, clean it up. There you go. Yeah. Finally, what I need is a few dots with my small brush. A few dots to indicate some sort of frothiness here. See? And in fact, I will also apply a little bit of brown just to finish this rim. See this rim? It's not black, it's brownish. And should go light. There's all sorts of dots at the edge over here, indicating the froth is about to start. right? So this is the side of the cup which is on this side, and then there's the transparency of the cup allows you to see the other side, which is also brown. So tricky bit. Okay, I see a little bit of darkness over here, so I'm just going to add that in over here. Oops, again too dark. Let's lighten that. And here, so this little design is very nice if we can get it. So this is the rim, right? And then there's this bend over here. See, it's a very nice piece of detail. So the cup kind of that little space between the arches and the flat of that line, it's very interesting, just capturing that. See, and that should be it. So here what I'm going to do is just darken it the same way, capture this, darken this corner, capture this gap, and same thing here, darken this corner, capture this gap. Same way here, there will be a line getting darker, and here there's an arch that we haven't yet. Okay, it's looking more, I think, like a cup of hot chocolate, if you ask me. But the context here will be lost if I did not put some nice background. So let me put a little bit of background because that will probably help. I'm going to just take this whole black that I have here, use it up. Before I do that, I'd like to wet the entire border, and maybe I should use a larger brush than this. Yeah, let's take a size 10. A size 10, apply water, wet it nicely. After I wet it, I'm going to go in with the dark color. I know this is highly likely to mess up a painting, especially when done at the end, and yet I do it. And this is the oddest thing you would expect from a pencil illustration, but there's a charm to it, and maybe it's just mine, something I love to do. Soften it and leave it dreamy. Okay, if I do anything more, I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to leave it at that. That's my cup of chai, and I'm going to mark it as day 15 of 31. Thanks everyone. I hope this has been helpful figuring out watercolor pencils with me. I hope you're having a good time. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.